There's something so pure about the Minions experience. They just are kind of these agents of chaos. But they also are sort of fascinated by everything in their world.
Ew, I've got a groovy idea!
They're like your kids, but cuter. That's the Minions. They're like your kids, but cuter.
Yay! New friends!
They're just really nice to be around. And I actually can speak Minion now, so could possibly do the rest of the interview in Minion.
Wow! So many bad guys in the car. What fun!
This is fun when you get the call, say, hey, we need you for a little more work with the guys from Illumination. You look forward to it.
Okay, Nelsons, let's do this.
You're there at the beginning. You were helping create it.
Oh, spectacular. Oh.
I knew you were villains, didn't I, honey? What a small world. Hope we're not in rival gangs.
You know, I have never exploded this much dynamite. Can I just say I am very excited to see what happens.
I just felt happy to be asked to play in the sandbox, to play in the fun sandbox. Kevin, Bob, and Stu, good company.
Thank you.
I only really worked with Kevin, Bob, and Stuart. They were my team, as I like to call them. I don't know how else to say it, but their talent is limitless.
And they're incredibly charming and likable and mischievous, and you just kind of want to be with them all the time. And they're actually some of the nicest actors I've worked with in my career.
Can we get personal for just a second?
Topolino l'Arrabbiata?
Their ability to improv is out of this world. You know, they might be short, but they're mighty in their emotions and in what they give you off camera. Oh, boys, could you come here, please? Meet my husband, Herb. Inventor, super genius, Fox.
I kind of think Stuart is my favorite because he's the middle and I'm a middle child. I don't know why, I just love him. Maybe it's his big musical number kind of wooed me.
Bob's the little one. He's the one that's a little more naive. The other two are a little more savvy.
An equal opportunity lover of the Minions.
You'll notice that the Minions wear overalls, right? Part of an overall's attire is that they hang by straps on your shoulders. The Minions don't have shoulders. How are those overalls staying up? They don't know. You know what? We don't need to know.
It was a 12-hour flight, and we'd get out of the airport in some other country. And every country we got to, we would see massive billboards of just little yellow pills. And it was like a world invasion of the Minions. It's a good takeover. It's a loving, innocent, mischievous, and problem-making takeover, but they're good. I don't mind them taking over.
Right on. You guys are crazy little and way yellow, and I dig that.
Hello.
There is some difficulties, technically difficulties, on this kind of characters, but it's a great fun to animate them because they are so sassy.
La pâte maquée? No, la pâte mano. Profiterol.
Usually we try to put a funny idea. It's not always easy, but always trying to push for the funny stuff, especially on Minions movie, because that's what the audience is expecting.
Scusa.
CG supervisor position is to be sure that the movie is going well during the whole process of the construction of it. We have more or less 15 departments, and we need to be sure that each department delivers the nice work for the next one in time and in quality. Beginning steps is to create what we call the assets. I mean, we have to create the characters and the location of the sets. During the creation of the Minions, we are working in parallel with the animation directors.
To be animation director, you need a beard.
Yeah.
And then...
For the charisma.
Yeah. We create the motion of the movie. We make the character alive.
Hello.
Each time it's very funny to bring them life. They're on the computer, they don't move at all. And little by little, one minion move, and then 2 and 3 and 100, 200.
Just to work the expression, it's a challenge because we don't have any eyebrows.
So the shape of the minion is only a body with 2 arms and 2 legs. So they don't have any neck or they don't have any shoulders. So animation-wise is difficult.
Hello, King Bob. Welcome to Buckingham Palace.
No.
During the Bob speech, for example, when Bob is king,
Salvarco? Unadu.
technically these scenes were very, very difficult because the amount of people in the crowd was so huge.
Everything that is behind the main characters. You define this crowd. When we have a huge crowd, we need some tools to help us. We cycle animations, we copy, paste them on other characters. So we have to be very clever, to find clear animations that we will copy on other characters. But when we will look at it at the end, we will think that all these people have their own movements, but it's a copy of what some people do on the other side of the screen.
Minions become so popular around the world, probably because they are like kids. So it's a kind of for memory when we were kids and this kind of jokes.
Yippee.
Alors, quand j'ai commencé à travailler sur Despicable, donc au tout début, il n'y avait pas vraiment de mignons dans le script. En fait, c'était plutôt des sortes de gros bras, de Gru, une sorte de force, de garde rapprochée, en fait. Pour m'aider à construire, à imaginer Gru, j'ai très vite dessiné des petits ouvriers en salopette, en fait, qui l'accompagnaient, mais ils avaient une tête humaine, en fait, à ce moment-là. De là, ces petits ouvriers sont devenus des robots. Mais il y avait un petit côté froid qui passait pas bien. Donc on a mixé le robot, je dirais, une créature plus organique. Ça donnait quelque chose d'étrange. Et à partir de là, on est resté uniquement sur l'organique. Donc ce sont devenus ce que sont les mignons aujourd'hui.
C'est pas là. Aventure!
So we start with art concept. Most part of them were done by Eric Guillon, production designer on the movie. And our role was to define this art concept. It's sketches first. And from there, we very quickly built a 3D mock-up.
Gelato party.
Alors moi je tenais à garder cette simplicité chez les Mignons. Comment essayer de garder cette simplicité tout en les différenciant. On a fait des grands, des petits, des ronds, des plus fins. Mais c'est surtout en fait les quelques cheveux sur la tête qui ont permis d'apporter une distinction unique.
Mais the movie was very challenging in terms of sets because we're traveling through a lot of different sets in terms of time period, but also definitely in terms of locations. And some of them are quite complex. New York, London, Buckingham Palace.
First of all, we love the look of the 60s. We love the clothes, we love the style, we love the attitudes that we're slowly coming to. Everything about the 60s was cool.
We did a very specific study of this period of time. So it was really important to collect the photo reference, movies, and everything regarding the design, the fashion, the vehicles, even historical moments.
Are you ready? Scarlet Overkill!
Alors Scarlet, c'est la nouvelle méchante, et Herb, c'est son mari, en fait, le scientifique. La touche rétro, il y a beaucoup aidé, avec ses petits talons fins et sa robe rouge. Pour ce qui est de Herb, je me suis inspiré d'un personnage français qui s'appelle Serge Gainsbourg dans les années 60. Un personnage pas forcément beau, mais cool.
Well, I love too.
En fait, moi, ce que j'aime dans les Mignons, c'est leur simplicité. Ils ont cette naïveté. Ils ont cette excitation aussi sur le monde, sur ce qu'ils découvrent. Leur impact graphique, l'humour, le décalage. C'est la touche Illumination.
Oh, hello, Papagena. Tu le pera con la papaya.
In 2007, 2008, I started to feel like I wanted to build something again. I had a lot of ideas about what I'd want it to look like. What I found was a tremendous fear and anxiety about actually doing it. I was lucky and fortunate because I had some great partners in Universal who said, we want to support you in doing this. But it was still starting with a blank sheet of paper. I look back on it and I go, thank goodness I chose the people I chose to form this new team, because they're the reason why this has worked. Whether it's my partner, Jacques Led, who originally was one of the founders of Illumination MacGuff, Janet Healy, Chris Renault, Pierre Coffin, Cinco and Ken are writers of Despicable Me, Brian Lynch are writers of Minions. The first Despicable Me came at a really opportune moment because it just started the company. I was a few months into it and I was trying to figure out what the first movie was that I was going to make. And I got a call from Nina Rappaport who said that she wanted to introduce me to Sergio Pablos. And he came with 4 or 5 ideas. So he took me through one and then he started to tell me this story, which ultimately became Despicable Me.
Knocked over!
Within a few minutes of him telling me the story, I knew that I wanted to make this movie. And just over 3 years later, we had a film in the theater. The Minions were a pure creation of an artistic process. It was a collaboration between Pierre Coffin and Chris Renault working with Eric Guillaume. We always knew that Gru needed henchmen, but the original idea was a very conventional idea. But Pierre and Chris and Eric talked about trying a take that would be totally surprising.
Okay, that's weird.
The day that they showed me the very first early animation test, it had a charm that was undeniable, and you couldn't stop watching it. At that moment, I knew that we had an element that was going to work well for the film, and also become one of people's favorite parts of the film.
Fire! Fire it now!
You haven't quite seen anything look like them. They're distinctive, but most importantly, they're adorable. I also find this quality of wanting to be bad, but essentially being so good, to me makes them very appealing.
I am the greatest criminal mind of the century. I don't go to little girls' dance recitals.
It really is a question that we're asked all over the world. What's the secret to the Minions? And the secret is their spirit. And their spirit comes from their design, their performance, and their vocalization. All coming together to create a persona that is just irresistible. There are 2 secrets that I think contribute to our ability to make films that engage audiences. One is the talent. Writing talent, acting talent, animation talent, design, directing. That's the fuel that is in the engine of our ability to make a film.
Wow!
And the second element is this focus on character above everything else.
I love you.
Yeah, I love you too.
Characters that are relatable, that are dimensional, that are frequently flawed, that express themselves through comedy. We really knew that these characters weren't only going to work in the movie, but they were going to also work outside of the movie. With Minions, there was an immediate reaction that was so strong that it was getting audiences to pay attention. And once they paid attention, what they discovered was Gru. That is unquestionably the anchor and the heart of Despicable Me. But what grabbed them was engagement with the Minions.
What about you? Any evil talents?
La 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 la. Eh?
That's not evil or a talent.
Ah. Stuart!
What I love about working with this group of people from Illumination, Universal, the filmmakers, is the freedom that they give me to look for the sound of the Minions. What I like about the Minions in general is the fact that it's a little representation of what we do as a group that puts picture together. That's what I get the most from the Minions, is the fact that you get stuff done, but with the help of many friends. So today I have an amazing creative musician that plays all sorts of instruments that maybe there are like 5 of them in the world. They all add a personality to the Minions.
That music is timeless. It suits the movie and the production design and is a real fun driver for the film.
I looked forward to the opportunity to create big, colorful music for small characters.
Heitor Pereira, our composer, is such an important part of the creative team, going all the way back to Despicable Me 1.
His music has an eccentric quality to it, which is like the Minion characters themselves.
The score is a great opportunity to actually travel through time and to show where they are at as characters, and then go from New York and move to England and really transform the personality of the music by just having this great orchestra. Throughout the movie, we're gonna try to sing in Minion's language.
All the chorus is saying, like, instead of Latin words, it's just ridiculous Minion words like tomato, banana.
Banana!
If I sit and I imagine I'm holding hands with my kids and my wife and we're watching and having a great time, I feel like this is how it has to feel. I feel good about writing music for family movies. If it feels good to me as a family person, most likely will feel good to the ones that will be then coming and watching it. It feels good, it feels good!
The idea for the genesis of the Minions, in terms of where they came from, came together, and we sort of worked backwards from the first Despicable Me to see, well, if there was a prequel, it would be cool to show the Minions searching for a boss.
Well, we wanted to take these really iconic characters and be able to tell where they came from.
The idea was to show them going through time, longing to serve an evil master, whoever it is or whatever it is.
They really are just trying to find that one villain who's gonna make them feel like they're serving their ultimate purpose.
Scarlet Overkill! If I was a Minion, that's who I'd want to work for!
This gave a justification to the fact that their language is so international. They speak a little bit of Italian.
Mi bellas!
They speak a little bit of French.
Tu le disais England?
They speak some Indonesian.
Hey, Bob! La tika masala!
Japanese, Chinese, Moroccan.
Oh, Puchi Makali.
The whole movie basically became a challenge about, like, how do you tell a story with 3 guys at the center who don't speak a language you know?
Part of what is so appealing about them is, even though you can't understand what they're saying, you get the intention of what they're saying, so it's not alienating when you hear them talking.
Oh, hello, papagena. Tu le bella con la papaya.
In the Despicable Me movies, we've always visited the Minions as one character, even though there's like hundreds of them. They weren't necessarily distinctive from one to the other. And so now when we got into the Minions, we wanted to pull out Kevin, Stuart, and Bob and differentiate them from the rest.
The whole movie is about these guys. I do all the voices for them. So when I do Bob, I go to a higher pitch. I have much more energy.
Torino? Orlando?
Stuart is easiest just because he doesn't speak that much. And when he speaks, it's always about, like, you know, not wanting to do stuff. And Kevin is the one that expresses the most. He's the leader, so he needs to express things in a certain way.
Yo le findo! La!
Watching them mess up and fail, and the complicated relationships they have with each other where they're sort of mildly abusive with each other, but they love each other also. There's an absurdity to it that I think is really entertaining.
Scarlet, le puamo, la papaute.
Oh, yes, I saw what was going on the telly.
Telly?
I love the fact that they can carry any sort of emotions without having to say them. That you could feel that a character loves another just by the way they interact.
The movie can really take you anywhere. It promises a lot in terms of what you're going to see next or where the story is going to go. I think it's quite fantastic.
I think the Illumination films just look different. The design and the lighting and the textures, and there's a lot of heart in our movies that I think makes them stand out from the rest.
Okay. Thank you, Bobby.
I came over for the end of Despicable Me 1. I was the associate editor on that, and then since then I've worked on nearly every movie and then started Minions 3 years ago. With animation films, it's different from live action because you're building the sequence over 3 years. When you're working on them for such a long time, things can become stale, and that's something I'm very conscious about.
Banana.
The Minion dialogue makes it a very unique experience editing.
Bob!
I would get the boards and I would have to imagine what the Minions were going to say to each other. Quite often, just kind of talk nonsense to myself whilst I was timing them out. And when I would get new voices back from Pierre, it was like Christmas.
Melatonin topinambur? Nah. Pureko, paputin.
You thought you knew what you were going to get, but what you got was something completely different.
Potakino?
I would just be very wary to make it feel like a conversation and just kind of find that flow.
Patata la boca!
My Minionese may be better than my French right now.
¿Qué pasa?
Cutting the scenes with the Minion dialogue is just making sure it felt like they understood each other and that there was a rapport and giving it time to breathe even though you wouldn't necessarily understand what they're saying. As well as their dialogue, I love the Minion footsteps. Because they've got such short legs, they have to walk faster than everybody. And there's something about that always gives the film that rhythm and the energy. And it still makes me laugh after 3 years. I've got a few favourite sequences. The scene when Kevin, Stuart and Bob set out on their mission, and that was a scene when I cut it, I just felt that emotionally we connected with our characters. I love the carriage chase because I think it's Minions at their best, out of control, but they have a mission and they're going to do it. It's a lot of fun. When the Minions are chasing after the crown and it's descending after the encounter with the Keeper of the Crown, Kevin tells Bob, Prakash! Prakash! And that's the name of our first assistant editor. So I always love that moment. Yes. I'm the yellow fire hydrant that Stuart is in the hot tub with.
Tiffany.
Tiffany, our associate editor, is the other yellow fire hydrant. When the Minions are locked in the shopping centre, the maker of the TV is Dodson, so that's my surname. So that's kind of on there, so I'm excited for my parents to see that. What I love about the Minions is their gusto. It's the spirit in which they go ahead, and I think that's really lovable.
Layout is the camera department for an animation movie. And we decide how we want to frame it. If we have to do a close-up, if we have to do a wide shot, which lens we will use for the camera. Before we start on it, we sit down with the directors and we speak about the sequence, about what they want for the staging point of view, which emotion we have to feel during the sequence, what is the motivation of the characters. So all this question can help us.
Hello.
The size of the Minions is a challenge for the layout because they are small, but we have to find some trick in layout to frame them. There is a lot of evolution in the tools we use to do the camera. Now we have one camera by shot, so we can do whatever we want on the shot, and we can do some alternative shot for the editor, so he can choose the shot he wants to use. So all this pipeline now is more easy for us. And we have some, of course, some tools to shake the camera, to put some breath on the camera.
In lighting, we put everything we need. We render the frame with different layers, and after that, we re-put all the layers together in compositing. The big part of the compositing is recreating all the lens process, because in CG we don't have any lens, so we work on lens flares, defocus, and all the lens artifacts. As the movie happened in the 60s, we also wanted to have like a vintage look. That's what we done in compositing. For us, the most technical is the destruction shots. When the castle is falling down or the fight in the city, because there's a lot of geometry, there's a lot of assets, there's a lot of everything. It's more a technical issue than artistical, so it's mostly technical because it took a lot of hours to render, a lot of issue to correct in lighting and in compositing also. It's a long process. We could spend some weeks on one shot.
The Minions have always been kind of a group to us. They're subversive, they're childlike, they're so expressive, and they're invincible. You know, you can't kill a Minion, I don't think. It wasn't until the Minion movie that we started finding separate personalities.
Our movies are about character, and just like every other film, we needed to explore dimensional personalities and characters.
In the other films, they're really comedic relief. They're side characters, and then they do that beautifully. But here we want to follow a journey with a character.
You, One Eye, you're sitting next to me!
Okay, dime casos.
Kevin is the kind of older brother of the three who just desperately wants to be heroic.
Buddies! Purana! Yorefindo!
Stuart
Yo, Stuart!
has a musical ambition. He's always playing his guitar.
La mega ukulele.
He doesn't really care so much about the mission. I think he has maybe a short attention span, and he is a little more subversive than the others.
And then we've got Bob.
Yeah, go Bob!
Who is basically the cute baby.
Bob's innocent, always wide-eyed. He's got his teddy bear with him, which is a really sweet touch.
Bob was actually an opportunity to really tweak the design, and you see things like he doesn't have hair and he's got two different color eyes, and his eyes are a little bigger, and so he really is super, super cute.
The three of them, by the end of the movie, you get the sense that they're their own little family. Because they are the stars of the movie, it's very important that you understand them, even though you can't literally understand them.
They're really expressive characters, a combination of, you know, the Three Stooges and Charlie Chaplin and all of the great silent comedians. I think it's really wonderful that the animators have found a way to express what the Minions are thinking and feeling so much just from their simple design.
You really get to know these characters, even if they're Minions. And above all else, the most impactful aspect of coming to see one of our films is the bond that you leave the theater with between the audience and the characters.
Stop.
We bring the actions, which are in words in the script, into visuals drawings to have a first look of what the movie can look like. I remember the first day when I come here, they told me the story room was like a laboratory where we try things, we try the shot and we see if that shot will work and which shot won't. During the first step, we're doing some rough sketches and then we show directors. So Kyle and Pierre are here a lot. They have the whole view of the movie and they have to tell us what they want. When you're watching the funny film, you really see the work of the team. That's really great, I think. It's cool.
The Minions are, at the heart of it, just little kids. They're little kids that want to get in trouble. They're little kids that you shouldn't turn your back on because they're very mischievous. And at the same time, they keep trying. They get blown up, they get tossed, they get dumped in water. A lot of kids are like, is this what the Minions were before Gru? And I'm like, well, I hope our answer is as good as what you think it is.
Minions have been on this planet far longer than we have.
Originally, the origin was the first 10 minutes, and then it was going to jump into, well, here's a fun adventure, but people have so many questions about the Minions, we realized it was going to be a lot more fun to answer those.
They're all different, but they all share the same goal. To serve the most despicable master they could find.
We had hundreds of different time periods where we played with and we picked our favorite ones. But man, just for time, we pulled some out. It was amazing. I think Dracula is my favorite because they have such great intentions for Dracula. They're celebrating his birthday and they wind up killing him, which is so sad.
Oh.
Definitely the hardest part is the fact that our three leads don't speak English. They just babble.
Para tu, maratica.
And there's words that you understand throughout.
You know who this is?
La cucaracha?
And usually the lead can say, this is what I'm feeling in a movie, and I didn't have that luxury this time. There were times where I wrote a whole scene saying, if this is what we could understand them saying, this is what they'd say.
Comment? Comment les bolos les rassis? Méditer? Loco la pati, Bob la kingo. Tapa la máquina puquete. Pero no!
My favorite moment in the whole movie is Bob's speech to the citizens of London. And it's this long, stirring speech in Minionese, and I truly think it's one of the greatest movie speeches of all time. I think it's going to be used as auditions for actors when they go out for parts. They're just gonna babble and then drop a mic at the end of it. It's beautiful, and if you understood it, you'd be crying at the end of it. I understand it, and it's changed me. The day that Illumination asked me if I had any ideas for a Minion movie, I said I want to do a Comic-Con but with villains. That was the #1 idea I had. And I thought at first the whole movie was going to take place there. And then slowly it just became the springboard for the rest of the movie.
Orlando!
I'm a comic book writer as well, so I've done signings at San Diego Comic-Con. And it is just as scary as VillainCon. First of all, there's just as many people in costumes. They are so pumped to be there. They're so excited. You could probably get away with more at VillainCon.
Any evil talents? Not bad.
It was exciting to see how they would be in the world without Gru, because Gru is there to protect them in the first 2 movies. He's clearly a father figure. As much as the Minions say they want a villain to lead them, I think they also want a family to be part of. And in this movie, they don't have that yet.
Wow, so many.
This is the Minions in the movie that I want to see. All my life, like, them against the world, and the world isn't ready for it, because the Minions can take anything and keep going. So it's really fun to see.